Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is your boy HeirOfGotham here, bringing you a special event, a dual com, with the man, the myth, the legend, Wayne, the average gamer. What's up, Wayne?
Yo, what's good, homie? It's about time we got together and do this dual com. As you guys know, I'm known as the golden voice of YouTube, but now that I got HeirOfGotham with me, you know it's about to get on and popping.
All right. All right, guys. Wayne and I have grouped up today because both of us have had the opportunity to mess around with Sony's new DualShock PlayStation 4 back button. If you guys aren't familiar with that, it is the adapter that you're able to plug into the extension port on the bottom of the PS4 controller, and it essentially gives you paddles on the back of your controller that you can remap or jump or reload or whatever helps you out in the games you're playing. We felt that it'll be a good opportunity to kind of give you our thoughts on it and also compare it to some other devices that do similar things out in the market. Wayne, how long have you had the back button?
I think I've had it at least for about a month now.
I think you got it when it launched. I bought it from Best Buy, and for whatever reason, like Amazon and Walmart got it 2 weeks earlier than Best Buy.
Right.
So I've had it for almost 3 weeks now, I think.
I actually pre-ordered it because I was trying to get it from the other places, the Walmarts, the Targets. I saw people online advertising, and I was like, yo, I got to try that. $30, that's not much of an investment to me compared to what we've been purchasing.
Okay. In this conversation, Wayne and I have both used a bunch of different controller accessory type things that kind of allow us to get those paddles and that effect. So we're gonna kind of compare the back button to those, but also give you some insight into our experiences using the different controllers. But to start off, what games have you been using the back button on?
I've only actually used it on Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I was going to play Apex Legends, see how that was, because I thought how good it was when I actually played Modern Warfare. It's very intuitive. I was quite surprised that when you hit the button, the reaction is like immediate. I didn't feel any lag whatsoever.
And what do you have the buttons mapped out as?
I just have jump for X and O to melee.
Okay.
I use a tactical setup.
And I'm gonna be honest, like Modern Warfare, since it's not really like a jumping jetpack type of game, people will probably tell you that there's no advantage of having jump, as a trigger. Have you seen a benefit of being able to jump without taking your finger off the analog?
Yeah, because in Modern Warfare, even though it's not like the jetpacking and you got that extra boost jump, there's still enough jump to jump corners. You can do what they call like the double jump. If you come around the corner and you do the double jump, that aim assist will take the other person off of you, and you'll still be able to have direct contact with them. So a lot of folks who know about that, they use it for that, and it's the double jump technique.
Okay, that makes sense. For me personally, I've used the back button mostly. I've been playing a lot of Apex Legends, played Destiny a little bit here and there, Destiny 2. Tried playing Modern Warfare, but rage quit out of it. Played some Black Ops 4 and Black Ops 3, and even the Division. So I've been pretty diverse with. I mean, I guess they're all shooters, but I've been using it pretty balanced, I guess. I have the right, like if I'm holding the controller and looking down at the controller, the right paddle is configured to X for jump, and the left paddle is configured for me for, I think for crouch. Yeah, for crouch. I have it as crouch because some games like Destiny, the melee button is different. So I didn't want to get accustomed to using the paddles for that, and then I have to switch it for every game. And for a game like, let's say, Call of Duty, that crouch can come in handy. In the past, I've used things like that, and I made it reload instead. So I'm not really, like the left trigger is not really set in stone. I can switch it whenever, depending on the game, I guess.
You know what? I never thought about that. I kind of like what you're saying about the right being for jump, because I always use the left for jump.
Okay.
Right, and I always use the right for a melee.
Okay.
But that because I'm right-handed, predominantly right-handed, and so that seems like it would be kind of natural. But that's also my aim. So I think that's why I use kind of the other side. I don't know. I may need to try that one day. It sounds pretty cool.
I mean, it's worth a shot. I'm right-handed also, so what I'll usually do is I strafe, but I'll aim with my right analog, right, and I'll lock onto the target, and then I'll strafe left and right, but trying to keep my analog like with the crosshair still on the enemy. And
right.
So for me, having the X there just always felt natural. It always felt weird having it on the left side. I don't know why. Like I've tried it in the past and it just didn't work for me. So I switched it over and it felt more natural on the X on the right. So
right. And what most people don't understand, like we're using these different type of controllers, and it's to get a competitive edge on the game. And most of the controllers that we both have used is that they're non-cheating, right? They're accepted and they're actually used for gamers, MLG type gaming. And so they're all approved. I have the Cinch controller, and of course I have the Battle Beaver. And those are the only two I've ever tried besides the PlayStation 4 back button. And the difference to me is when I get the custom controllers, of course, the first thing I do is I take out the rumbles because I like a lightweight controller in my hand.
Okay.
And with the PlayStation, actually, I'm using my standard controller and it still has a vibration weights inside. And that kind of adding the back button adds a little bit more weight to it, but it feels firm in my hand. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's like beefy, but it's like a man's controller.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Where the other ones are very light, very nimble. I think I could play with the other ones a longer period of time because they're lighter.
Okay.
Rather than the PlayStation back button. But it's not to say I couldn't go out and open up the controller and take the rumbles out myself.
I got you. Which, I mean, you know, that when you go that far, you know, there's always a chance when you try to put it back together, it doesn't work the correct way, or things don't quite fit in the spots that they're supposed to be at, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So as far as, like, you mentioned I use the Cinch and the Battle Beaver. I've used a few different devices just so people know the reason why us, you know, controller users look for devices that give us the extra buttons on the back is essentially set up how a controller is designed. It's not really designed ergonomically for you to be able to do multitasking, because in most cases, if you have to take your right hand off of the right analog to jump, you're at a disadvantage. And I mean, I know a lot of people are mouse and keyboard users. They don't really have to deal with that. So, you know, it's kind of to help allow us to take full advantage of what the player or the character is able to do without sacrificing aim and accuracy. So I've used the Scuf. I've used a couple of Scufs, and I stopped buying them because I realized I was spending over $100 per controller, and it would last anywhere from 6 months to a year, and then it would break and die and not respond, or buttons would fall out and all sorts of stuff. And then I used the Nacon Revolution because that was the first PlayStation controller that was licensed by Sony to compete with the Xbox Elite controller, essentially giving you those extra features. And I used that for a while. I didn't really like it originally because it felt strange, like it was a wider controller closer to the size of an Xbox. But I got used to it, and it was pretty good. Very sturdy controller until it died after about a year and a half, 2 years. I've used the Strikeforce FPS, which is similar to the PlayStation back button, where essentially you plug it into, if I remember right, the USB port on the top of the controller, and then it locks in and gives you paddles on the bottom. The downside is that it does have to be wired up to the PlayStation to work correctly, and also for whatever reason it counts as a headset. So you always, like, anytime you have an actual headset, you had to like make sure they were both turned on, and the PlayStation recognized both devices to the same user. It was all sorts of weird stuff. And also in all reality, some people that have that controller can use it for like mods. So I was never really a fan of the fact that it gives mod ability. I just wanted to use it for the paddles. For like the last year, since last March, I've been using the Astro C40 controller, which I really love it. It allows you to remap the analog so you can make it in the style of a PlayStation or the style of an Xbox controller, because you know Xbox has the left analog, you know, that top position instead of the bottom one.
Right.
It has paddles. It has trigger stops. I know you're a fan of trigger stops. So it's a great controller. The downside is it's expensive. You know, I don't necessarily recommend people run out and spend the bank on a controller, but it's worth it. You can switch out the analogs. The caps are removable, so if you use things like Control Freaks, you can use a controller without having to use a Control Freak. So there's a lot of things. The downside of that controller, since it's not officially recognized by Sony, is that the buttons don't quite work the same. The PlayStation button won't turn on the PlayStation if it's off. You have to, you know, that PlayStation button is pretty much only there to let the console know which controller you're using. So then we land on the PlayStation back button, and all it is an official DualShock controller. So everything you can do normally, you still can do, and then some. So,
correct.
And it's $30, like you said. So I think it's a better bang for your buck. You know, I do put some Control Freaks on it, so maybe add another $10 for that. And I have a much better experience, and I can use it wirelessly or wired.
Right.
I'm happy with it.
And see, I don't even use Control Freaks. I use the standard size elevation of the buttons.
Really?
But yeah. Yeah, surprise, surprise. Still got that sticky aim.
I like it because it allows me to like. So a lot of people that use control freaks will increase their sensitivity. I do it the other way where I might lower my sensitivity, but because of the control freak, I can get a better angle and I can keep a more accurate shot.
Right.
It actually feels really weird. Like if for whatever reason the control freak comes off and I can't find where it fell or whatever, oh man, it drives me nuts because I've gotten so used to using it over the years.
Right. I've used it before, but it just felt unnatural. And getting back to the PS4 back button, the only thing, like, I have to hold this controller different.
Okay.
Because the buttons, they're very, very sensitive. And so when I grab the controller, and everybody's hands are different sizes, and everybody uses the analog sticks a little bit different. When I hold the PlayStation controller, I use the tip of my thumbs to control everything. I don't use the bottom or the mids of my thumbs. I use the exact tips. So to hold it and use for my triggers, I actually use the trigger buttons. I use the R2 and the R1. But when I use the PlayStation 3 controller, when everything was different, I used to use the L1 and R1. I mean, excuse me, the L1 and L2. But anyway, so now that I use the bottom triggers, I have to hold the controller different. And it feels a little bit funny to me because it just doesn't, I don't have the body, you know how the PlayStation controller, little arms come out just a little bit? I don't feel like I have full control of that, which makes me hold the controller lighter. And it might be better for my hand, but I'm used to when I hold my Cinch or if I hold my Battle Beaver, which I'm currently using right now, I'm used to pushing in and holding that controller firmly in my hand so that anything I do is more precise. And I just feel like when I use the other one, I just have to get more used to it. Because number one, the weight, and maybe the weight's the thing that's making me feel that way. But I feel like I'm losing just a little bit of my grip. So if they do come out with something in the PS5, I hope that they narrow where the buttons are so that the whole bar isn't going across. But for $30, dude, I've invested almost, you know, it's kind of like 175 is like the standard. We're not getting a whole bunch of stuff when you get these controllers. And then as soon as you start adding color to the buttons and different things, I mean, they elevate almost to $200 or so. And so $30 versus with the standard controller that was, you know, maybe $45 you can find in the stores these days or order online. You can't beat it. I don't think really after this controller, my Battle Beaver goes out, I don't think I'm going to buy another custom controller, to be honest.
I mean, I'm with you on that. And I mean, like I said, I've already mentioned the you know, the expense of some of these controllers out there, and I agree 100%. Like yeah, the controller, the PlayStation, you know, the default controller is not cheap by any means, but you figure most people have at least one of those, right? So if you kind of cut that out of the expense, now you're talking about $30 for, you know, the back button, and maybe if you go in my route and you want to get a control freak, maybe $10 or $15, something like that. That's a lot cheaper than some of these others, and then instantly you have more abilities to show off your skills. Because let's be real, just adding a back button, just adding a Scuf to a player doesn't make them a better player. You still have to have aim, and you still have to be able to manage using that extra skill set. And you know, I tell some friends all the time that gaming can be an expensive hobby, and if you can get the same results from a like a lower price point, I fully encourage you to do so. And if I were to give a score for the back button out of 10, I would give it a 9 out of 10. And the only reason why I even took a point off of it was a couple of days ago I had an issue where I played Modern Warfare before I rage quit, my character started looking down at the ground spinning, and I haven't figured out if that was because of Modern Warfare, because it's, you know, it's buggy, or if that was because of the back button. So that you know, that -1 might not even be fair to the attachment, but because it happened, you know, I want to admit that, you know, it's something that could be. But I haven't had that a problem ever on any other game, Apex or any of those other games I mentioned. I haven't had that problem, so you guys can take that as you want.
Yeah.
What do you think? Really, out of 10, how would you score it?
I'm not as high as you on it. Because I need to try it on some other games. Okay. But if I were to judge it against Modern Warfare, I give it a 7.5. And the only reason is the adjustability of my hand. I got the weights in there. But everything else, we need to just let everybody understand. When you use a default controller, it is really what the game was meant to be used and leveraged with, right? With that said, when I use the R1 and R2, I still feel like I get the same aim quickness. I still feel like I get the same trigger quickness. And then using the back button and the jump button with the PlayStation 4, I still feel that quickness. So all in all, it's awesome. But I lose the ability with my current charger. I can't use it on my quick charger. I actually have to plug in the front to use that device, right? And so now I have to have an additional string, or not additional string, but additional power cord hanging out of it just to get it charged. And so that's where I shave off something.
Very fair point.
Yeah, and then of course, because I have weights for the rumble and then the weight of this, it adds additional weight. I feel like the controller's heavy. So those are the things that I strike points off, and I'm starting at 10 and then taking off points, and I give, like I said, the 7.5.
Okay.
But it's definitely something I could get used to. I would just take the rumble packs out myself, though.
And I think that, like that's a good point, that you know, it's something that you'll get used to. So over time, the score may change. If I were to give, out of all the controller types that I've used and I've mentioned, including the Xbox Elite 1, I haven't used the 2 yet. But out of all those, I would say the best controller that I've personally used is by far the Astro C40. So if you guys have the money and you want to go ahead and try out one of these fancy controllers, I do recommend that controller very much. After about a year, one of my analogs started drifting, and I reached out to Astro. I told them what was going on. They had me send a couple of screenshots of their app, and they sent me 2 replacement analogs, just like that. So Astro's been great. The controller's worth it as far as money wise goes, and just because of the customizability about the controller. But if you're looking for something that is a nice entry point to give you that extra ability, you can't go wrong with the back button. If money wasn't an issue, what would you say is the best controller that you've used for PS4?
I say the PS4. I say the PS4.
So no buttons on the back at all. The
no
OG.
button. I mean, the reason why I say I'm an advocate of using devices the way they were intended to be.
Okay.
The OEM to me always makes the best controller. If the OEM was to make a controller just like the Cinch or some of these others, I think it would be more robust. I would say every time I get a custom controller, they normally last between a year and a half. But when my standard controllers, I've had them for years. Since I purchased my first PS4, I still have those controllers. No issues about drifting. I've had drifting on both of the controllers. I've had the trigger stops have to be readjusted because every game has to have a different trigger pull on it. So when I play different games, I always have to go back and readjust. So when it uses a custom controller outside of what the OEM actually manufactured, I always find flaws, but I haven't found one flaw in the standard PS4 controller if I'm playing all games and it doesn't matter.
Okay. I mean, I've definitely gone through a bunch of OG OEM controllers, but and I know this is where you and I, differ. I usually buy the protection plan on my gaming accessories, so if it goes bad, I don't care. I'll just bring it back to the store and get another one.
Yeah, and that's where I say, if it goes bad, buy another one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm buying it with their money, not mine.
Right.
And it's not a sponsored video, so I'm not dropping any names. But yeah, if I buy a controller from a certain company, and the and the controller starts acting up, even if it's just like, let's say the OG controller is a 10 out of 10, even if it drops down to a 7 and I don't want to deal with it anymore, I just bring it back and swap it out for another one because I don't want to deal with the headache.
Yeah, it's just where I am in my life, bro. That's why I do it. The only thing I have insurance on is my medical, the insurance for my home, and the insurance for my vehicles. Anything else, I don't buy insurance for it.
I respect that.
I just buy another one.
All right, man. Was there anything else you wanted to add to the controller conversation we've had today?
I just hope that people give it a try. I think it really deserves a lot more attention than it's getting. It needs to be in a conversation, and especially if you're young and you don't have all that money and you want to game and be like your favorite YouTuber or MLG Pro or something like that, don't try to buy everything that they have. They have a different skill set, and they manage to develop that skill set over the years. Not one controller is going to do it for you, not one monitor. You just got to get your game up. As an alternative to price, I think the PS4 back button.
Okay, man, I appreciate that, and I agree. I also think that there's a lot more people out there that are sponsored by one controller or another, so you know that's why you probably see them out there more often, whereas I've never seen anybody officially sponsored by Sony, so I don't see them mentioning the back button. And I've never seen anybody sponsored by like Strikeforce or Nacon, so same thing. But it is what it is, man. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you were able to take something from Wayne's insight and my own, and hopefully we'll get the opportunity to do this again sometime. If you guys have anything else that you want us to talk about, any other topics that you think would be interesting from, you know, one of our our kind of opinions, or the both of us debating, please drop it in the comment section. Let us know. We'll try to do that. But otherwise, all right, guys. So without anything else, this is HeirOfGotham signing off.
And this is Wayne, the Average Gamer. Make sure you guys subscribe to both of these channels, because this is great information we're putting out. Peace.